Is diversification dead? Times like this, when U.S. large companies are doing so well, it's one of the hardest times actually to coach investors. And the reason for that is that people tend to focus on large U.S. companies. The media tends to focus on it. The news tends to focus on it. But what we really have to ask ourselves is diversification still a concept that is effective? And when we look at longer periods of time, such as this 49-year period from 1970 to 2018. During that time, there was a lot of turmoil. There was a lot of recessions, a lot of booms and busts in the economy. But a diversified portfolio with just $1 invested grows to $318 during that time versus the S&P 500, which grows to only $116. So a diversified portfolio would look something like this, including about 19 different asset classes, because we know that returns come from owning the market, not just from one small segment of the market. Here's something that kind of surprised me. When we look at a short duration of time, such as a 1-month increment, the S&P 500 actually outperformed the diversified portfolio 53% of the time. Now, what happens, though, if we make that duration a little bit longer? Instead of a month, let's make it 1 year. Now we see that the diversified portfolio outperforms the S&P 500 55% of the time. And what happens if we make that duration even longer? Let's take that out even in 7-year increments. We take that 49-year period and break it up into 7-year increments. We now see that the diversified portfolio outperforms the S&P 500 71% of the time, and the S&P 500 outperforms only 29% of the time. So the question then is, well, Ray, that was in the past. Will that continue into the future? So to answer that, we need to ask two questions. We need to ask, number one is, will these large, well-established companies suddenly change and decide to pay us a lot more for the use of our money? And the answer to that is probably not. And the second question we need to ask is, well, is diversification just some kind of fairy tale or theory, or does it actually work? And what we can see is from the data is that it actually works and actually outperforms just being in the S&P 500. So the conclusion is that diversification is the investor's friend. So what we need to do is we need to be disciplined and stay diversified.